Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard. So glad that you could join us today. Many of us are caught up in why we do some of the things that we do, be it an addiction, cigarettes, maybe comfort foods, any number of things that we do out of habit. We look and we say, I really don't want to do that anymore. Why have I been doing this for 20 years when I abhor it so much? Or others around me are, asking me, why do I do this? I try, I think about it, and nothing seems to work. Well, our guest in studio today, Dr. Kyra Bobinet. She's the CEO of Engaged In. Engaged In is a design firm using neuroscience to change behavior. And for this work, she's received the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health Innovator Award. And in addition to being a physician turned behavior designer, she's also the author of Well-Designed Life, 10 Lessons in Brain Science and Design Thinking for a Mindful, Healthy, and Purposeful Life. How are you doing today, Kyra?
I'm doing very well. Neal, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. When it comes to doing what we should do as opposed to, doing what we want to do, or at least think we want to do, is it an addiction and just not maybe, to drugs or alcohol?
Exactly. I mean, I think addiction is a perfect metaphor for this because for many of us, we have behaviors that are vexing or non-ideal, let's say, or we want to have optimal performance out of ourselves or our careers, and we just can't get there because we have all of this legacy behaviors, habits, those kinds of things that we would much rather be free of. So, it turns out that about 95% of what we do is hardwired and put on shortcuts or autopilot so that we can just live. Our brains are dealing with 11 million sensory inputs a second. So there's got to be a way for us to cut that down and filter out most of the noise and just do what we know. So what our brain does is we form little scripts, little algorithms of how we operate. And those are very difficult and challenging to break.
Many of these scripts are basically forced down our throats, for lack of a better term. We're watching television, we're on the internet, we're reading magazines. We're bombarded with different messages. And when it comes to behavior design, those in the media and the advertising industry understand quite intimately behavior modification as it relates to advertising and getting consumers to behave in a certain way. Basically, it sounds like going into battle to undo damage that has been done in order to, gain some semblance of control over our minds again.
Right, exactly. And certainly we all have had the experience, even with advertisers, of, things we pay attention to that hook us and things that we ignore. And so what that's all about is we have a kind of self-narrative inside of our prefrontal cortex that says, I am Neal or I am Kyra, and everything that makes the cut gets into my attention. Everything that has nothing to do with me, like shaving for beards for men, doesn't have anything to do with me. So I ignore those kinds of ads. So it's really about the resonance and the attention and how much our attention gets hooked by certain things in our environment. And that is all governed by our self-image and the story of me. And conversely, there's things that are not me. For example, when people lose a tremendous amount of weight, the biggest problem they have is this isn't me. I don't feel like myself anymore. And it's a very awkward feeling. And so part of knowing how your brain registers these things as awkward, uncomfortable, and being able to tolerate that once you've made a change is part of the battle for actually sticking with the change long term.
It's almost as if the change has stuck to you. It's become comfortable within you and doesn't want to be cast out.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the first thing is we're allergic to change. When things start changing, we feel groundless. We feel like this isn't me. I don't feel like myself anymore. Well, yeah, because I used to sit there and down a thing of paper, potato chips in front of the TV. That kind of migrated into my me space for over the years. And so to undo that and do something different, I have to be willing to recognize, oh, this weird tickly feeling, that's just the not me. And if I stick with it long enough, it'll start to become more familiar and I'll integrate it into my sense of self.
Now, you're an author, physician, public speaker. Your book, Well-Designed Life, 10 Lessons in Brain Science and Design Thinking for a Mindful, Healthy, and Purposeful Life, available on Amazon and also at your website as well.
Yes, our website is designyourbehavior.com.
As the author of Well-Designed Life, the title It implies a step-by-step. It's 10 lessons in brain science and design thinking. Could you briefly just give us a brief shot as to what we can expect when we open your book? Are you going to take us through a journey of bettering our health through better thinking, or offer us anecdotes? How is it structured?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the 10 lessons are basically 10 aspects of neuroscience of how the brain works that one could use to apply to their desire to change behavior. So, for example, there's one on self-compassion that is super essential for being your own designer of your behavior. And without that, people tend to fall into being stuck in self-loathing or guilt or shame or those kinds of things. And so if that's what's up for you, that chapter is the best first chapter for you. Okay. And so my intention is for people to be able to pop around against different topics that are resonating with them, much like they would, a sort of textbook where there's different chapters on different topics. And then, they can use that material for what's present and what's most pressing for them at that time.
So basically, it's an excellent guide to find out exactly which techniques and methods work for you uniquely, yeah?
That's right. It's combining science and design in each case. It's saying, here's the science behind self-image. Here's how you design for self-image. Here's the science behind compassion and empathy. Here's how you design for those things. And in both cases, you've got sort of the science, the hard evidence behind what you do and how you do it. And then you have the artistic side, the creative side, the design side of how do you solve the problem differently using design thinking.
Now, how much of thinking design or behavior design has to do with being around those that want to change like you do or in the same way that you do? Is that something that is addressed in your book or in any of your lectures?
Yeah, it's definitely easier. I mean, there's certainly cases where somebody has such a strong sense of intention or a strong purpose, passion for what they're doing and how they're doing it. They tend to find friends and peers and supports, but it's hard to do it alone. So I would suggest for anybody who's on that path or inquiring how to do things differently to find other like-minded people for sure.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard. We've been in studio today talking with Dr. Kyra Bobinet, physician turned behavior designer. She's also a brain expert and an author, the author of Well-Designed Life, 10 Lessons in Brain Science and Design Thinking for Mindful, Healthy, and Purposeful Life. And we've been in studio today talking about behavior design and basically what it means to each individual who's trying to make a change in their life to better their health or simply change the way that they think about a certain situation. It could be anything. But Dr. Kyra Bobinet says that she is absolutely sure that taking a look at her book, Well-Designed Life, 10 Lessons in Brain Science and Design Thinking for a Mindful, Healthy, and Purposeful Life will give you some true insights into yourself. It's been great talking with you today, Kyra.
Absolutely. Thank you, Neal.
Thank you so much. Transcripts and audio of this program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au and also at hpr.fm. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.